What should you do when the main markets are closed and only the OTC market is available? What should you do? If you don't know how to trade on the OTC market, I'm about to show you a ready-made method that will help you make over 80% profitable trades. So you'll be able to repeat this algorithm and make a pretty decent profit. So let's jump straight into the video. I'll show you all the settings and the entire setup, how it works. How is this video going to be structured? First, we'll break down what the OTC market actually is and who it's suitable for. After that, we'll move on to the ready-made tools that we can use here, specifically on this market. And then we'll look at the situations I recommend you use, as well as, on the flip side, the situations you should skip. So even after just this one video, you'll already be able to trade on the OTC market. It's not as complicated as it seems, it just has higher volatility, which is always important to keep in mind. Keep in mind that trading for short periods really works here, but you should also practice if you haven't traded on this market before. Dedicate at least a few hours a week, and you'll get used to it. This market truly has pleasant volatility, it moves well, and you can work very quickly. So if you practice, you'll be able to catch some really good and interesting trades, and of course, trade profitably. Now let's look at an example of a trade using a robot. As you can see, I've already got a fantastic move of 30 points, and from this trade, I'm making $688, all with just one indicator set up correctly. So this really is an easy market that you can easily master and trade on. Let's take a look at some more examples of how everything works here, and how you can set up the platform and start trading on it today. Alright, let's check it out. Look, first, let's set up the platform. We want to trade safely, so we need safe entry points. To set up the OTC market, you need to select Heikinashi on the 6-candle S30. And I also recommend clicking Show Timer. I'll explain why in a moment. After that, once we've set everything up, we need to choose the trade duration. In this case, the duration will be 1 minute. We select this time, and now our platform is ready. That is, according to the indicator. We only need to add one indicator, which is the RSI. Here it is right here. We go into the RSI settings, click on the little pencil, and set the period to 7. Next, in the style settings, we change these two parameters from 70 to 80 and from 10 to 20. We save our RSI indicator. It's set up. Now we're ready to trade, but now the question is, right, how do we actually open trades? How do we analyze? On the OTC market, you have several options. These are either ready-made indicators that show you how the price is moving. Technical analysis works very poorly here. We don't recommend using it, so it's more of an indicator-based approach. Or, as another option, you can just follow the link in the description right now and activate our bot. I'll leave a link to it in the description. It's available to our entire community. All you need to do is activate it. It literally takes just 5 minutes of your time. You don't need to buy anything or pay anyone any money. You just follow the link, activate it, and you'll have a trading bot. We provide it to our whole community. There are already almost 20,000 of us. That's why we're ready to share the bot with everyone, just like that. The link to it will be in the description. Be sure to go right now, activate it, and you'll be able to make the same kind of profit. Now, let's talk in more detail about the strategy, how to actually use it, why we set 30-second candles, and what they do for us. Look, now you can trade on any currency pair. So you just select it in the robot, for example, US dollar to Japanese yen. For trade duration, I recommend that on the OTC market, you still choose 1 minute. The movement here is pretty fast, so we have high volatility. By the way, I also suggest you use a time interval that's a multiple of 5 seconds. Right now, many of you may have noticed that I opened the trade exactly at the 20-second mark. That's exactly why we set up the timing. Because if you pay attention, you can open the chart right now and test it yourself. When we have, with each new 5-second candle, we usually see an impulse. The price moves slowly, then a new 5-second candle opens, there's another impulse, and then we pause again. Why does this happen? A lot of orders are opened exactly at the start of new 5-second candles. That's just how the market works. It's always been that way, and most likely it will stay that way for many years to come. That's why we can catch a really good, interesting impulse that will immediately give us a profit of several dozen points. You can choose any currency pair you like. Later, I'll show you which pairs you should skip and which ones, on the contrary, will give you a good advantage. In fact, there are 4 main currency pairs on which you can almost always earn steadily. They have good, stable movement on the OTC market. We'll also look at entry points, and of course, I'll show you everything in practice. Andre, let's break down how we work with this strategy. For example, we get a signal from the robot. Let's break it down, Yuzo. In our example, when can we open buy trades? We can open buy trades, obviously, when the booster bot tells us to do so, but we specifically open them in the range from 20 to 80. Within this particular range, we are allowed to open a buy trade, as this is the designated area for such trades, according to the strategy. There's another range available to us, which is the range below 20. So basically, we have a zone, and we open buy trades specifically from this range. Let's actually show this visually in a different way. It'll look like this. From 80 to 20, we can open buy trades. Here, we'll be in the oversold area, so we'll have strong impulses. And here, it's just moderate movement. So if you see that booster bot gives you a buy signal and your RSI indicator is currently somewhere within this specific range, you should open your buy trade at that point. We'll be opening sell trades a little differently though. Instead, we'll open them from the value of 20 and up to the very top of the range as described. In other words, we'll be working within this range. So from here, we open sell trades. So as you can see, the main difference between buy and sell trades is that we can open them in these two ranges, right in the middle. That is, when the value is between 20 and 80, we work both for buying and selling here. At the top, we only work on selling. At the bottom, we only work on buying. This is the main condition. So for example, if the booster bot gives you a buy signal here, but your indicator's at the top, you skip this trade. Likewise, if it gives you a sell signal at the bottom, you skip that trade too. Look, the interesting thing is that this signal might actually work out, but as a beginner, you probably won't catch that entry point. How does this work? So for example, it gives a signal, and here we have a level. We really do come into this zone that it identified, but we catch a sharp impulse. So if you didn't manage to open your trade at a good entry point, you'll end up in the red. That's why we'll just skip situations like this. Now let's move on to another interesting topic, the best entry point. Why did I use a number that is a multiple of 5? And how can you achieve the same result? Let's go take a look. By the way, let's get another signal for the USD/JPY currency pair and see how the booster bot handles it. I'm switching to the bot, selecting this currency pair, and once again setting the trade time to 1 minute. Now I'm just waiting for the signal. Let's see what the bot tells us. And once again, the bot gives us a buy signal. So once again, we open a buy trade. In other words, once again, I received a signal for an increase. We look at where the value is exactly at 50, so this is a safe entry point and you can open a trade from here. Also, make sure to check the timer. If the time here is a multiple of 5, then we open the trade right away, because you can catch a really strong impulse that, in just a moment, can bring you 10, 20, or even 30 points in just 5 seconds. Also, let me remind you that you can activate this robot right now using the link in the description. You don't need to download anything, you don't need to buy anything. It runs on the convenient Telegram platform, which is quite reliable, so you don't need to download or buy anything. So, go ahead and activate this robot, and it will analyze currency pairs for you, both on the regular market and on PTC. Unfortunately, I get a loss. Let's take a look. That happens sometimes. Let's check the signal, and by the way, the signal was actually pretty bad. We only had a 62% chance. So even the booster bot wasn't sure, but I didn't pay attention to that, and as a result, we had a reversal. That's why you also need to pay attention to the percentages on the OTC market. Alright, let's cover this trade. I'll open the next trade for $1,250 to make up for this loss. Let's go take a look at it. British pound, Japanese yen. And now, as I promised, I'll now share with you the very best currency pairs, right here for you. First, we wait for a signal. We wait until everything lines up for us. Wait for 5 full seconds, and then from there, you should open a buy trade. So once again, you get the signal, and then you wait until the time is a multiple of 5. Now, I'm sharing some ready-made currency pairs that consistently deliver the best results. The very first currency pair is the euro-dollar. Right now, we're talking specifically about using the euro-dollar in this particular strategy. It's a very good currency pair that consistently performs well over time. The next currency pair is the euro. The Swiss franc also has fairly stable movement. The third currency pair is the British pound to the dollar. This is also a stable currency pair where you can make good trades. That was the third currency pair. The fourth is the Australian dollar to the Canadian dollar, which also has good movement and quite pleasant volatility. These are all the specific currency pairs for this entire market. Right now I've opened, well, let's put it this way. You could put the British pound to Japanese yen in 5th place. It's also a fairly stable currency pair. But here, as we can see, there are more impulses, so it will be harder for beginners. So you should trade in this order. First, look at the easiest ones, Euro dollar, Euro Swiss franc, and see what's happening with these currency pairs. So you see this kind of calm movement here, and accordingly, you'll gradually move on to, for example, to the Australian Canadian dollar, or the British pound to the dollar. Really, take a look, there's a very nice movement here. The price moves very steadily, so you can definitely trade on that. If we open, for example, the British pound to Japanese yen, where is that currency pair? I lost it. Then we see that there's a kind of chaos happening here. That's why something like this is better. So basically, that was the whole manual. You just need to set up the chart very easily, put on our Heikinashi candles with a 30 period, then turn on the timer and trade for 1 minute. By the way, I covered my loss on this currency pair. The indicator settings are very simple. You set the RSI to a period of 7 and set the maximum values to 80 and 20. Then you activate the robot and start working with it. But pay close attention to these percentages. Look, I made a mistake, and as a result, it cost me minus $850. If I hadn't made that mistake, I would have been nicely in profit, but I didn't pay attention to those percentages. I saw a buy signal, glanced at the RSI, and opened a trade. As a result, I ended up in the red. That's not good. So it's better to do it this way. Quickly activate the bot using the link in the description. If you have any questions, just write to our support account. In short, I'm leaving all the useful links in the description. And I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. See you soon.